Hey guys, I'm back to read you some more of the Wild Robot Escapes. We are on chapter 61, which is called The Guide, and a few days ago, the chapter was called The Hunters, and we know that Brightville was left really scared and terrified, and Roz was saying, I'm sorry, I should have acted sooner. You are safe now, I promise, okay? So we're on chapter 61 called The Guide. A light drizzle was falling on the travelers, although they weren't actually traveling at the moment. They were standing still and staring up at a steep mountain of rocks. The robot had plenty of rock climbing experience, but one bad fall out there and she could be stranded forever. So Roz carefully picked her way up the slippery slope while Brightville fluttered beside her. They hadn't gone far when there came a sound of hooves clattering on stone, and then a horned creature leaped from the mist and smashed right into the robot. Cling! Roz went flying backward. Cling! Roz crashed onto the ground. Standing on the rocks above the wild robot was a wild ram. He had big curling horns and a crazed look in his eye. Brightville flew to his mother's side, ready to defend her. Stay away from my mama, he hissed, spreading his wings. But rather than charging, the ram hung his head and started to cry. Oh, I'm so sorry, he blubbered. I don't want to hurt anyone. Sometimes I just lose control and smash things. I feel awful about it. Really, I do. Roz brushed herself off. I believe those are your instincts, she said. We all have them. They can be very powerful. I only hope your instincts do not end up breaking me. Don't worry, the ram sniffed. I'll try not to let my instincts break you. I appreciate that, said the robot. My name's Thud, said the ram. That's kind of funny, Thud, because he just kind of thudded into her. Which way are you headed? We are trying to find our way out of these mountains, said Roz, but they never seem to end. You're almost there, said Thud. Let me show you the way. It's the least I can do after smashing you. The ram pranced away and led our friends to a narrow path that wound up the rocky mountainside. Roz tried to stay close, but Thud was born to climb. He easily scrambled up the steep slopes and vanished into the mist. A minute later, his friendly voice called out, For a creature without hooves, you're not a bad climber. And there he was, peering down from a cliff ledge. The path opened into a foggy meadow, where a whole flock of wild sheep were grazing. They reminded Roz of the cows grazing in the pasture, and she wondered how they were doing without her. Thud pranced through the flock. These are my friends. They're new, he announced without stopping. They're lost, so I'm guiding them out of the mountains. The sheep raised their heads. Thud had a habit of making weird friends, but these two were definitely the weirdest. The flock watched as the ram, the robot, and the goose continued up the mountain and disappeared into the mist. Higher and higher they climbed above the tree line to where there were only rocks and scrubby plants and trickling mountain streams. They occasionally came upon a dirt road or a hiking trail, and the ram trotted across casually while our friends crept across cautiously. I like the comparison between casually and cautiously. So we talk about authors sometimes use certain words to show comparisons. So one's casual, like, oh, no big deal, and the other's cautious, like they're very aware, they're being careful. At one point, the ram got that crazed look in his eyes again. His horns came flying at the robot, and she jumped out of the way just in time. Then Thud cried and apologized for his instincts. Roz forgave him, and the group carried on. They finally hiked up from the mist and onto a mountain ridge. Above, the sky was clear. Below, a blanket of puffy clouds spread outward in every direction. The sun was setting, and the western clouds were burning pink. Roz thought of the mountaintop on her island. If only she could be watching the sunset from that peak instead of this one. But they still had a long way to go. Thud pointed our friends to the last path. This will take you down from the mountains and through the foothills, he said, smiling. The ram suddenly got that crazed look in his eyes again, and the robot prepared to jump. But this time, Thud pulled himself together. He said goodbye to the travelers, and then he pranced away. I will be back with chapter 62 in a few minutes.